Welcome to episode number 78 of the Roundtable. This is an emergency episode, fellas. I think this is our first emergency pod. I'm Grant Brisbee here with Andy McCullough and Marc Carig. Andy, how you doing?
Yeah, we had to talk Joe Kelly. I mean, he's back. He's back.
Austin Hedges to the Guardians, $4 million. Let's hear it.
Yeah, they signed some guy named Ben Lively today. Good for Ben. All right.
Yeah. I think he's like a former first-round pick. Am I making this up? Phillies?
You could easily be.
Marc, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. Just enjoying this wonderful week in baseball.
Just to be clear, Ben Lively is a former fourth-round pick by the Reds.
Close.
I shot my shot.
Close.
Stay
shot my
hot,
shot.
But you see, the way he delivered it, though, I was like, oh, yeah, obvious.
Yeah, oh, duh. Yeah, everyone remembers the Lively draft of 2015. We all had takes on that. That was the Trout Cabrera of its time.
Thanks for blowing my cover.
That's so funny.
All right, so we'll get to the big news, okay? Big news. I'm going to have space in the press box at Oracle Park whenever I want it. Whenever I want it, baby. There's not going to be like a bunch of Japanese reporters just spilling out all over the place. No, I just walk in, get my coffee. I love it. I love Otani and the Dodgers. I love it.
The good news is for Giants.
I'm not mad.
The good news is for Giants fans, there's going to be a lot of space in the seats too to stretch out and hang out with their imaginary friends and all that sort of stuff.
You don't think Cody Bellinger moves the needle?
No, I guess amazingly we're going to open with the Giants. I still think there's plenty of time for the Giants to have a good offseason. And as we all know, winning the offseason means very little. But if you're talking about like selling tickets and generating buzz and changing the narrative in San Francisco, no, Matt Chapman's not going to do that.
You know what, though? I did some research for this podcast, and did you know that Shohei Ohtani just had Tommy John surgery? Can't even pitch. Can't even pitch next year. Yeah. I don't. No one needs that guy. Good luck, Dodgers.
Eric Steven made a pretty good point on Twitter, where he's like, a lot of people are saying like, well, yeah, he's not even going to pitch next year, as if only getting the 1,000 OPS is not a bad deal.
He's so good.
And considering Otani is like paying the Dodgers to play for him or something, like it's a great deal. How about that?
That is wild. That is
1,000 OPS for free. I mean, how do you beat that?
$2 million a year, the rest deferred. I'm making more than Otani now with my new contract with the Athletic. It's amazing. So,
he's making less per year than the Royals had in those options for Salvador Perez that made them so bad that they gave him a new deal.
Yeah, it is. I get it. And yet it's still like it's legal. It's not unethical. It's just kind of annoying. Right.
All right, here's my official stance on the deferrals.
Okay.
My official stance. You can't make me care. However, for the sake of the pod, I'll say this. I think it's a very good insight, more insight into Otani than anything he said in quite some time. In that, yes, right, he does want to win, clearly, right? Like, this is a thing that you do if you want to win, right? You don't want to cripple your team's CBT. You don't want to you don't want to have them 6 years down the road when maybe, wherever he's at in his career, they're unable to do, they don't have the payroll flexibility, all that sort of stuff. However, it also fits into another thing that is pretty clear and is important to Otani's character, is that he wants to do things that have never been done before. He wants to be this is a guy, Dylan Hernandez from the LA Times has made this point a lot, but this is someone who's a bit of a contrarian. This is someone who has his whole career done things that people said he couldn't do. When he first debuted in Japan, they told him, you can't do this, right? And when he first came over here, he was told, you can't do this. And when he got the first Tommy John, he was told, you got to pick. You got to choose one. And he just keeps saying, no, I am going to do things that have never been done before. So having the largest contract in baseball history fits into his sort of record of historic achievements, like qualifying for the ERA title while hitting 35 homers, like what he very clearly this year was set out to try and break Judge's record and would have had a good shot before, getting hurt. And so I think it is, right, it's insightful both in that, yes, it backs up his rhetoric of wanting to win, and it also fits into the bucket of like, this guy wants to, he can always say that he has the $700 million contract, the biggest of all time, even if, the way to get there was to take $460 million and turn it into 700. I really would like him to do my taxes actually moving forward.
You forgot about one other first. Finally, the Dodgers have a star. Like he's gone where no one else has gone before.
Well, I mean, another first. That's $700 million on the MasterCard. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, that's essentially what it is like the Dodgers have a really cool credit card, which is what you would expect. They're pulling out that black card or whatever. I mean, and that's what they did. So
they're getting so many miles.
Yeah.
So, getting hella miles. All
Hella
right.
miles.
Like, they got access to the lounge. Right? Like, I mean, all the good stuff. It's great.
Now, if I remember correctly, like at some point in the next 3 years or something, they have to set that money aside, right? Like in a trust or something. Like they can't just, it's got to be there. Like it just, all of a sudden the water wars happen, baseball folds, America's and rubble. No, that money's got to be there.
Well, as former Dodgers third baseman Justin Turner pointed out on Twitter, sounds like a problem for the next ownership group.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
And I got to say, like, I sent some messages around to folks in the Dodgers front office kind of after Ohtani broke his own deal and didn't hear back for several days. And I thought it was because I haven't built up the credibility to have good working relationships. But what I have since discovered is they were just recovering from the fainting spells they had when they found out Ohtani was willing to defer the money. Because this is something that the Dodgers have been pitching to big ticket free agents for years. Like they had the $300 million offer to Garrett Cole when he was a free agent. There was a good portion of it was going to be deferred. Mookie Betts' deal has some deferments in it. This has been like the thing that they have been trying to do. So for Ohtani to come in the door and be like, yeah, I mean, you can just defer it until I'm 70 years old. They were just thrilled.
Yeah, it's wild. It is wild. And I don't know. I don't know, man. So the Dodgers probably aren't done yet. They need pitching. They've got a bunch of second-year players. You got Walker Buehler, who he should be fine, but he had a rocky return from Tommy John last year. They need pitching, and I guess they'll get it now. Great, that's great.
Yeah. No, it's all working out great for you, Grant, and we'll talk about your props moving forward. But
my fridge is out. You ever have a fridge out?
Oh, that's bad.
You need like a fridge to eat.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of takeout. Anyways.
Yeah, well, also all your food goes bad too.
Yeah, it's all gone. Like all the farmer's dog that I got for free for reading podcast ads, all the Omaha steaks that I got for free from reading podcast ads.
Does
hit
Roman
up sales
expire?
Because what's that?
Does Roman expire?
Oh no, man.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, no. That stuff's good. Good to go.
Yeah. Speaking of upgrades, the Dodgers, they could get like Tyler Glasnow still. They could get Dylan Cease still. They're in on Yamamoto. I'm going to bet against that, based on the Yankee and Met interest. It's kind of hard. One of the things that Ken Rosenthal and I have talked a lot about is just the ideas of the Dodgers. Like the one, maybe we can get into like how obvious this looks now, right? That he was going to go to the Dodgers. And you asked us, I think, before the winter meetings, like, where is he going to sign? And Mark was like, the Dodgers. You idiot. And I was like, the Texas Rangers, because and I think and it's another thing about Ohtani is that he very rarely does what's expected of him. He very rarely does the thing that, like, on the surface, you can like predict. And so for him to do something so predictable is actually in somewhat like unpredictable, I guess. Anyway, what were we talking about?
It felt
they're
like
not going to get Yamamoto.
It felt like Aaron Judge last year, where when the dust settled, it's like, that's where he was going to go back. It just took a little circuitous route to get there. But honestly, back to Yamamoto. If I'm Yamamoto, and this is like all I got left, so please don't squash this. If I'm him, what team would you want to go to if you have a competitive, fiery spirit? You would say, "Oh,
The LA
like
Dodgers.
he's on the Dodgers. Well, let me go to the rival, and like
Right.
that can be,
Yep.
for the next 10 years, just we can butt heads. It'll be great for the sport.
No. This is
Don't
wish
squat-
casting. No,
don't.
go to Fangraphs. Go to Fangraphs right now. Go to the Dodgers depth chart and go pull up the rotation. There's plenty of competition to be had there. You take a look.
No,
look,
but
all
I'm
right?
just saying, like he wants to go
Plenty
head
of
to
time.
head.
If he really wants to compete, plenty of opportunities to do so in that rotation right now.
He wants to compete with Michael Grove.
You know what I'm saying? Take a look.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying compete in general. Just like he wants to be the face of like the anti-Otani, not because he
can go be
disrespects
the
him.
face of the Dodger rotation.
Don't do this to me, Mark.
I don't. Grant, I think you're safe because I suspect he will be playing in New York next year. Can't say which franchise yet. Although the Yankees are feeling like the Yankees again. They're Yankeeing up. They sort of shimmied a little bit and
little froggy.
Yeah. They're feeling a little squirrely. Yeah. You can say
they did
that.
shimmy, didn't they?
Yeah, they
They
shimmied a little bit and traded like 5 sort of maybe someday number 4 starters for
they do a lot
for Juan Soto.
They do that. They play that card a lot, actually, when you think about it. So yeah, I mean, I love it because when you squint and look at Hal, you can kind of see his dad. You got to squint a little bit.
You
got to squint. I said squint.
Yeah, it's more like in selective years. He's like he's Hal, and then like once every like 11 years, he's like, damn it, I'm a Steinbrenner.
That's exactly. He's right.
I mean, it's true, right? It's like it's the year. Obviously, the winter of 08 comes to mind. The winter of 13 comes to mind. Where they splurged on Ellsbury and Beltran and Tanaka, and it's kind of like. You hold the line, and it's like, you know what, damn it, let's unload the depth arsenal we've got for 1 year of Soto and bank on Soto loving it here, hitting 50 bombs, and then we have the money to give him, $400 million this offseason.
Right. There you go. We're closer to 5, but yes, like that. That's exactly right.
You want to know who's not going to get deferred money in his contract?
Yes, Scott Boras client Juan Soto.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's a man who will be getting his paychecks on time,
up front, waiting at his locker. Like
bless
that.
it.
God bless him.
So. Yeah, Grant, is there what are people in the Bay Area most upset about with regard to the Dodgers and Otani? Besides
just life, everything, baseball. They're pissed off. It is just an irie, mad, just a nasty bunch of piranhas. These fans, they want action, and if they don't get Yamamoto, like it's weird. The reigning NL Cy Young winner won't do it for them, right? Blake Snell, they'll be like, oh yeah, great, Blake Snell, awesome. It's got to be Yamamoto right now, and if it's not, they're gonna freak out.
Why do they keep attaching their hopes to players who are unlikely to come there?
Yeah. Right. See, with Judge was the perfect storm. Like the dude came into the league and he said, "I want Rich Aurelia's number because that's my idol." He grew up a Giants fan, so you had that at least. Plausibility in the back of your mind, and you thought maybe he wants to play it, maybe he wants to come home, maybe, of course, now we're morons, but with Otani, I don't know, man. I didn't think it was ever going to happen. I wrote as much, but it's cute to think about because he's so different and generational. You kind of, you kind of just think no one thought Bonds was coming to the Giants. They were gone. They were in Florida, and then all of a sudden you've got Barry Bonds, and he's there, and it's great for a decade plus. So you have that little bit of hope, little bit of Kevin Durant. Hey, that actually worked, and he came to the Warriors. Hope.
Yeah, I mean, the Bonds was in 1992.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. They did nail Barry Zito. They got Aaron Rowan. Like sometimes they get their guy, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess we talked a little bit about it however many weeks ago. Like the Giants made sense for Otani in the sense that. I don't know. You might pick him, and it turns out he just did the thing that made the most sense, which,
I think I'm going to choose my words carefully. I think he did the cowardly thing. Joining the Dodgers. Ooh, Kevin Durant to the Warriors kind of nonsense. Come on, man.
Oh my God, this was so worth it, Andy.
Yeah.
Oh man, he slacked the other day. He's like, guys, we gotta do an emergency pod. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, no, we gotta do it. Okay, here we are. You were right. You were right. It was totally worth it.
Grant is spicy. He's going to be complaining about this
spicy
for the rest of his ball writing career, for however many months are left on his contract.
For the next couple months, that's all I'm going to be complaining about.
He sounds like the dude whose belongings are still at Otani's place, and he can't figure out how to get him back. Right? Like he's so mad about it. Oh no, terrible.
I'm actually not that. Like, listen, I'm dead inside. I'm a professional journalist. I care about stories.
You're right. Yeah,
I care about stories, baby.
Yeah, you didn't want to write about Otani at all. Yeah,
no, not at all.
You didn't want to cover that. You couldn't have had some fun with that.
No fun with
transcendent two-way player.
No, yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
He's perfect for you. He doesn't give interviews.
Exactly.
Dream player.
Dude, Grant was online talking about, oh man, I didn't want to go down to the clubhouse to talk to him anyway. You were gonna do that if he plays there or not. I mean, like, that's irrelevant. Then he's like, oh, Reese Hoskins can come here and do that. Is Reese Hoskins gonna play in your living room? Like, you're not interviewing him either.
Yeah,
but you're gonna write along, which is great. By the way, good column. In the aftermath, for real. Like, this is a dead serious comment. Like,
which one?
Like your do's and don'ts for the Giants.
Oh yeah,
that was a good one. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. It's
you should read it if you guys haven't. It's pretty good.
It matches. Like, it's Giants fans should be bitter. At the same time, that's all I got.
I feel bad for him. My brother, who because he's a bitter A's fan. Is like the first to all of the anti-Giants memes that appear on the internet, and like he just sent me a slew of them this weekend, and I actually forwarded one to you because it was this like circle, like this cycle of frustration, and this like very pained white person in the middle of it, and like I was like, dang, that's Brisbee. That's perfect. This is exactly it. So anyway, I feel bad. I do feel bad for him. Like I think we keep coming back to when Bonds came, right? Yeah. And so I feel like there's a lot of parallels to that period, like I think, this is also like team almost left, right? Yeah. So there's those feelings, and the new ownership group comes in, they're local, and this is how they make a gigantic splash. So like, it's not exactly the same, but the idea applies where, there are certain feelings about the franchise that were very strong, that when Barry Bonds showed up, almost was this cleansing effect, and then you saw what happened to they were making the playoffs pretty consistently. Like, they were fun, interesting teams. Like, it kind of brought people back, and it feels like, again, I don't think it's that extreme in this moment, right? But I think there's a lot of those vibes for sure, and I think the frustration certainly at that point with the fan base.
Yeah, in all seriousness, like there was a malaise, right? And so you get Bonds, they're gone, and then all of a sudden you've got just fun, happy baseball times for a long, long time. Right now, the Giants are struggling because no one works in San Francisco anymore, right? The offices are gone. They're there, and they're definitely not housing people. But there's no one going to work and kicking off early and heading down to the ballpark like they used to. They're in a little bit of trouble as far as interest. You've got Steph Curry and the Warriors are still doing their thing. Brock Purdy, again, first ballot Hall of Famer, doing his thing. Just the best football player I've ever seen. He's got like a gentle face, but eyes of a killer. Just an arm, a really accurate arm on the deep ball. His mechanic, it's like when you see him set, his base is so. Anyways. But you got to compete with that, and it's I don't know. I don't see how they get out of it without like Marco Luciano just becoming like a beast, or Bryce Eldridge. Like, that's what's got to happen. Their own Lincecum.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is how did they build the dynasty in the first place? Like, it wasn't shock and awe spending. It wasn't, doing stuff in free agency. They supplemented in free agency, but, it was Lincecum, it was Posey, it was Crawford, it was Belt, it was all these homegrown players. And so, like, I feel like we all know, We don't like to talk about it because obviously, as you guys know, we're the only pro-labor podcast. But like building in free agency is dumb.
No.
Like it's not how you build a winning club. We'll pretend that Texas Rangers didn't happen this past year. That we all know that it only hurts our arguments. But like we all know, right, that like building through free agency is probably not the best way to build a sustainable winner. And I would suspect that Farhan Zaidi and those in his front office are aware of this as well. It's why we keep talking about they're going to have to do something that they know is kind of crazy, that they know is probably more likely to flame out than just drafting and developing well. But here's the thing. They haven't drafted and developed well yet at a way that they can present it at the big league level. And that's the problem,
100%. That is the problem with the Giants. It's not that because they've had successful free agents. Not last year was a turd sandwich, but with Kevin Gossman and Anthony Esclafani the first time and Carlos Rodon, they've brought in some guys who have worked. But they've always had to scrabble and they hit on Mike Yastrzemski, but then all of a sudden you look up and you're playing all these platoons because you don't have those guys coming up from the system. They were left with a farm system of interesting teenagers, and now it's starting to bear fruit a little bit, but they whiffed on a couple of high draft picks that sure didn't help. That's what's got to happen. It's got to be the youngsters. So any ideas?
You know what they should have done?
Resource them.
They should have offered to defer Ohtani $800 million until 2050. Did they consider that?
Honestly, so let's take this from the Blue Jays perspective. If you're a Blue Jays fan, do you really think that the Blue Jays could have heard about this deal and gone, well, actually, we will defer $800 million.
We were trying to sway the guy, and we took him to Dunedin.
Yeah. So
what are we doing?
Oh my gosh! But honestly, do you think the Blue Jays could have done anything, or that they sort of just backed their way into this number because he wanted to go there, and they said, "Okay, we'll make it work."
I think it was. Look, we don't know. Well, we just don't know yet because they did keep the lid pretty tight on all of this, and Ohtani still hasn't explained, still hasn't spoken about this. I think from, again, 30,000 feet, seems pretty clear the guy wanted to be a Dodger. The guy wanted the biggest contract ever. Okay, how do we do that? How do we do that in a way that's palatable to the Dodgers, who we know have a ton of money and also, don't do insane things in terms of spending, right? So you take $460 million and you stretch it into $700. That's a theoretical way. I think the Blue Jays were real. I mean, Ohtani doesn't seem like the sort of person who likes to waste time, so I don't think he would have flown, across the country to Dunedin and, gone and looked at the facility and met with people there just on a whim. I assume there was real,
wasting the Giants' time.
Well, I mean, I don't think I think it was real, but I think Rosenthal and I were talking about this the other day. None of those teams make sense. If the guy wants to win, if the guy wants to, sort of do make history in the postseason, if he's on the Blue Jays, are the Blue Jays the pick to win the division next year? Maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think that's enough to say that they're better than Baltimore, that they're better than Tampa Bay, that they're better than even with the Yankees. He alone.
Crazy competitive division.
If you put him on the Giants, are they better than the Dodgers next year? No. Okay. You put him on the Dodgers, he's in a lineup where he bats with Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. Mm-hmm. And as the fourth hitter, it's Will Smith and his 850 OPS. And,
amazing.
It's just, it's different, it's different. And it makes, if he wanted to be, stay on the West Coast, if he wants to play in October, the route to do that is join the Los Angeles Dodgers because they're there every year.
You know what I'd never want to hear again is the idea that a Japanese player wants to be on the West Coast because it's closer to Japan. He's popping over there on his days off. He's getting takeout and I'll be right back. That's just the dumbest crap. If you're on a plane to Japan, you're in it for a while anyway. Those extra 6 hours, whatever, to just
you're so mad.
I know. Isn't LA actually closer to Japan?
He's besmirching an entire country. He's so mad about that.
Yeah,
that idea that people oh man, it's playing in LA is so much better as far as logistics than playing in Chicago. It's like, no, it's not.
Well,
It's
Los
still-
Angeles is also a much better city than all of those places. But anyway,
Ooh.
Los
Anyhow,
Angeles is a
you know
great
what?
city. What are you guys
By the
talking
way,
about?
speaking of
excellent
defending the honor of certain cities, like I know Andy was joking about, hey, let's recruit this guy. Let's send his ass to Dunedin.
Right?
But
Send him to the tilted kilt in Dunedin.
Right. But in fairness, the Blue Jays did pour a lot of money into their facility there.
Oh
that
yeah,
they
it's
renovated. It's really nice.
very nice
And
facility,
so
yeah.
if you are trying to entice somebody and show them how serious you are about trying to put a winning program together, what they've done down there is not a bad place to start. But yeah,
Right.
it's fun. Like Andy brings up a great point, right? Like it didn't make sense in a lot of ways, like because he doesn't alter their trajectory in the same way that he would alter the Dodgers trajectory, which now, like if you're the Atlanta Braves, right, are looking at this going, oh geez,
Yeah.
like I mean, right, like so the Dodgers are deferring all that money. The Braves have perfected the art of a team-friendly deal, right? Like so it's, oh my god, hi,
Yeah, okay, this is a little much, dog.
what's your dog's name?
This is Piper.
Piper
I was
looks
gonna
so
say
distinguished. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
My daughter's best friend is scared of her because she thinks it's like she's a little bit too human, like a little bit too uncanny valley when she stares, like stare into the camera. Look at
Oh my god.
yeah, it's just a little bit of yeah, she's like most humans in that she's ignoring you.
that. Yeah, Piper is pissed about Otani.
Wow.
Producer Brian. That's a
Piper
good
looks
point.
like he's missing her pocket watch because like that's how distinguished that dog looks. Anyway,
See?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's great podcast because they can't even see the dog. It's
They can see it on YouTube.
Well, we're trying to
relax.
build our YouTube audience,
Yeah.
so it's not just clips of me, eating hot chicken and then Grant taking pictures of me looking like I just stocked up on Roman while eating moon pies.
That's right.
moon pies.
But, dude, that's real life. Last week you ate hot chicken and chased it with moon pies.
I did, yeah, all for work.
All for work. Boy, way to take one for the team, Andy. That'll go in
Thanks,
the
man.
next review.
Yeah.
That's a 5 for me.
What were we talking about? Otani? Yeah, I don't know. We're still sort of waiting to hear some of the explanation for the thought process. It would make sense for him to go to Dunedin based on the fact that, look, the guy's interests are baseball, and also baseball. So he probably would want to see a spring training facility he's never visited before, especially if it's as nice as the one there. But, I think we all learned that Dave Roberts made a grievous error in admitting the truth. And that entire news cycle wasn't the dumbest thing imaginable. In which fans screamed at all of us for saying, actually, this isn't a big deal that this guy just told the truth.
It was a reverse
awesome.
test. Like it wasn't a test to see who could be quiet. It was a test who has the moxie to come out and speak his mind. It was that guy's Otani, him and his camp thinking 7 different chess moves ahead.
Yep.
Dude, you know what's amazing? Like Andy just said that I was the dumbest news cycle of this. There's like a lot of competition for that title, actually, right? Like you could fill the podium with like worthy candidates for dumbest Otani news cycle, right? Because I'm thinking, like, if you haven't read it yet, Stephen Nesbitt today
Still good.
got the fella that was on the private plane that wasn't Shohei Ohtani, and it is so funny and illustrative of what I think was the dumbest news cycle of this process, was tracking this flight that people were taking wild guesses as to like, who was on it and blah, blah, blah. Just ridiculous. Anyway, good piece, really well written, worth your time. It'll give you a laugh and it will illustrate to you just how dumb all of this can be sometimes.
The sushi restaurant. Just
the sushi restaurant, yeah. Someone had a tweet about Yusei Kikuchi surrounded by just like thousands of pounds of fish. No one has come. They're all confused. He's alone. That was you. Was it?
Yeah, it was a good tweet.
Wow, you still got it, Grant.
I still got the fastball. Still got the fastball.
You know what? I want to read a review that I read of this podcast because I don't think it's accurate. Whoever thought putting Andy McCullough in any talking role, in parentheses, probably Andy himself, needs a long period of self-reflection. He is dreadful. one of the most self-important, Grant, irritating, Grant, mean-spirited, okay, and misinformed baseball voices anywhere, Grant. Anyone who entirely spoils a podcast with the always excellent Grant Brisbee needs to stay away from the mic and back to writing. Grant, stop writing these reviews.
Man, I can't even come up with something that good and accurate. I think homeboy there just nailed it. I think
homeboy there just nailed it.
Got it, man.
I like to read our reviews because they usually cheer me up, but then there's one that's just like, you know who I hate.
Yeah, well, at least you're showing them that you're not self-important by bringing this up.
Brian.
Damn, owned. Absolutely.
Dude, like
owned.
Our reviews are so polarized.
Man, I wonder why.
It's like crazy. I don't think we're hateable. It might not be your speed, but like, I don't know, man. It's either Roundtable head for life, right, or die tomorrow. All three of you. Like, it's one of the two.
Yeah,
right?
Again, could you imagine a normal person listening to this show?
No, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. You know what was disturbing? And I guess it just tells you how unnormal some of the baseball folks are. There are front offices that still listen to this.
I know. Yeah.
Like, I heard that in Nashville. Did you not?
Yeah, no, I talked to several Roundtable heads. They come out in the wild and they're like, hey, I'm a Roundtable head.
You know? Like, you
just
don't know it.
I'm worried about your clients. You're an agent.
Dude, they're walking around in their khakis and quarter zips, and you have no idea that is a Roundtable head. You know what I mean? Like team branded khakis, and like they're walking around with their coffee, looking all important. Hey, open for business, open for business. You know what I mean? And like they're Roundtable heads. It's amazing.
It's like Succession, where it opens and he's like rapping in his limo. You know, you don't know who's like just like a hardcore rap head by the suits that they wear.
I think, Grant, I think that scene was supposed to be ironic.
Oh, no, I know. And so is listening to the Roundtable. Because we're not freaking talking about baseball right now on our emergency pod.
This is what we're
smelling our own farts and navel gazing.
I guess like what is, again, my official stance, you can't make me care about the deferrals. I will say you want to see a smile on Andrew Friedman's face is ask him about the rules he's gotten changed over the years. This is a man who once said his like favorite baseball move he ever made was like trading for Rafael Soriano because he turned him into a comp pick subsequently. Like, this guy loves achieving surplus value. Yeah, I suspect. I guess this rule will be changed. It seemed like a lot of people were just sort of freaking out about it on the internet last night. Whatever.
Well, so like here's a good parallel. All right,
like the player has to agree to this.
Correct, and that's
how many players are going to agree to this
right
forward? Okay. Very few, I suspect.
Right. Like, I feel like there's very few who are sort of in this realm anyway that would be able to defer that kind of money and have the material impact on the franchise he's joining. Now, that said, okay, in the English Premier League, Chelsea, who is owned, by the way, by a Dodgers part owner, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Has become very well known for doing this stuff. So, like,
they love it, man.
In soccer, the typical contract is on the low end, like 1 year, and 5 at the high end. Even at the highest levels, a 5-year deal is a long deal, all right? This dude shows up last year, starts giving people 7, 8, 9-year deals for the very same reason, because the league has, they have a different name for it, but it's the same effect. They're trying to tamp down spending and extending the deals, right? While risky because you're stuck with the players, right? Is still better for like that navigating that system. So effectively what's gone on is that's happened here because, as Andy has said, Dodgers and deferments go hand in hand. It's been that way for a while. Freeman, isn't his deal deferred? Isn't Betts' deal deferred, right? And
I'm not sure about Freeman. Betts, yes, Betts has deferred.
Okay, so but you said with the Cole offer, correct? Like they had built in these, so it's a tool that they're very comfortable with using. So if the EPL serves as any preview, guess what they did today? They closed the loophole. The teams voted today to get rid of it. Literally today. David Ornstein broke it this morning. And it falls in line with what UEFA did earlier in the year, like the governing body for Europe, like close the same. Like they don't want this going on over there. So it's a little bit of it's a slightly different mechanism, but the end result is the same. You're working around systems built to keep the salaries at a certain level.
In another thing that you have to consider with Ohtani, he's getting $2 million a year. Like, okay, yes, he will be able to afford like a nice home in Simi Valley or whatever. But he's also gonna get what, 20 million a year on endorsements?
No,
like
more than that.
Yeah,
more,
like stuff
3
that,
times that. I think
stuff that normal players don't have access to, right? So you're not gonna go Blake Snell and you're gonna say, "Can we defer all your money?" He's like, "Oh yeah, because I'm gonna like hawk Nature's Valley granola bars, and that's gonna pay all the bills." And stuff. No, like Blake Snell doesn't have that option. Ohtani is the one guy who has that option in baseball.
And there are baseball players, in other commercials and things like that on occasion. Mike Trout and Kershaw did the hand cooked tires commercial, right? So there's other endorsements available, but like most baseball players, when they say like they get sponsored by Nike, right, or like they're a Nike branded, what that often means is they are getting paid in like store credit. I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
And like, hey, look, like I'd rather have, like, I'd love, whatever, $50,000 so I can buy all the Jordans I want or whatever. But that's different between getting cash.
I love my free farmer's dog. What I mean?
So most players do not have access to. I think it's been written that Ohtani made 40 million in endorsements last year, and he'll probably make even more playing on a bigger team. Like the overwhelming majority don't have access to that sort of bundle. So the money they're getting is their guaranteed contracts. Thank you to Marvin Miller and the union. We are pro-labor. Whereas like most players, when they're in this situation, they're not going to want to defer it because they're going to want the money now. So I don't foresee it being a trend unless there is a sort of transcendent once in a generation player who wants to break a record but also doesn't want to cripple the team that breaks the record. And that is why, like, they'll probably close this loophole. But, like, it sounded like he was willing to do this for whichever team he played on. It wasn't just like, the Dodgers were thrilled with this arrangement. But it wasn't like this was only going to happen in LA.
Right. Yeah. No, they found alignment there. Right. Like, that's exactly it. Because, like, I think that's a really important point you bring up, Andy, about the Dodgers, that this is also on their end. This is not new. Okay. Like this is not something they concocted specifically for this situation.
The first extension offer they made to Clayton Kershaw in 2013 was 15 years, $300 million. And he was like, what? Like, how long? And he was like, no, I don't want to do it. He ended up signing for 7, with an opt-out after 5. But that was how they were thinking about it originally. It's like your AAV will be 20 million a year. If you get hurt or whatever, like, we'll still pay you the money, like through, you don't have to worry about playing to the end of the contract. And, since Guggenheim and Stan Kasten took over, this has been a thing that they have been interested in.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite salty takes from some Giants fans that I've read is that when they found out that the deferred money, the taxes will go to wherever he's living at the time, and there's like, ooh, that hurts our kids. It hurts our schools. Like, you've lost the plot so much.
There is
Bay Area people say this.
I don't know. Just
I am so ashamed of them right now, guys.
Grasping at straws.
There is a funny. I saw a few posts that were like, by the time Ohtani retires, he's just going to move to Texas or Florida so he doesn't have to pay taxes. The idea that Ohtani is going to spend his golden years in Boca Raton just to avoid paying taxes on his deferments. I hope it happens. I mean, it sounds like an incredible, like, second act to his life.
I picture Robert De Niro at the end of Casino. He's got like the big glasses and he's just like reading the paper at the golf course.
He buys a bunch of land in Marfa and just looks at art all day.
We called an emergency pod for this. that what we did?
I mean, in some ways, it's the most monumental contract the sport has ever seen, and it has led to some of the most galaxy brain takes imaginable, myself included. Like, I close to ruled out the Dodgers, not ruled out, but just like I would always caveat when someone said, well, it's going to be the Dodgers, right? Because I was just trying to think in in galaxy brain form. Yep. And sometimes it's just a simple answer.
The sushi restaurant got me. Like, I was like, okay, like you're putting these pieces together. You got the private jet, 50. Like, what's Kikuchi doing with 50 people? He's celebrating. I mean, that's what he's doing.
It sounds like the setup to a bad joke. Doesn't it? The Shark Tank guy, the opera singer, and the pitcher walk into the sushi bar. The bartender says, "Get the hell out of here." You know what I mean? Like, well, I don't. You know.
But I kind of like how every year there's going to be one team that is so elated for 7 minutes or a day.
Yeah.
After just crushed. Like, that is a trend that's got to keep going. Like, next year, it's got to be Juan Soto to the Cubs. And then, sorry.
It is one of the, I wouldn't describe it as a benefit, because I think when journalists produce information that is proven inaccurate, it erodes the public's trust in us, which is a net negative. It's pretty funny.
Pretty funny.
I think some of the takes, some of the navel gazing in the aftermath of all of this was pretty funny. Yeah, I think that's funny to me. It'd be like, having a headline that reads "Stealing hamburgers is bad," and then you click on it and it says "Buy the Hamburglar." And you're just like, oh, that's interesting. Anyway,
what's the text? Is it just robble? Like,
it's just
is it 1,000 words of robble, or
let's move on.
Me?
Let's move on. There was that's just like it's
next.
Everyone's trying their best, I think.
Yes,
it's a hard job, and it's a hard job, and I've made errors. I've gotten.
I was just joking about the Hamburglar.
I mean, it's just it's hard. It's hard. It's a especially for something like this, where when the way that they conducted this free agency, it really put a seal on it, and it created an environment where any bit of news gained a lot of oxygen.
We called this, didn't we, Andy?
Yeah,
we've been saying this for like a good 2 years. That because of the way they operate, it's going to create an environment where imaginations are going to run wild.
Yeah.
And all it takes is to give like a little bit of credence to something that might be plausible if you squint, and it is going to take off. And that is exactly what happened. Like, it was almost as if the industry did not know how to operate in a leak-free world.
Yeah.
They're just looking at it'd be like if you took water away. People were just like freaking out. What do you do? Like, anyway, that's what happened to me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my view, I didn't do any of that, but like I said, from my viewpoint,
well, I think
it played out.
It creates the, it allows sort of bad information to get sort of sanded down into, having seeming value, because the principles were just not speaking. So who knows? I don't know. We'll find out with Yamamoto if we've learned anything from this.
I think I'm going to spend the next year pivoting to someone who pretends they have scoops, and maybe get like a couple good ones. Like, maybe I'll actually get a couple scoops just so I can be the guy next year that causes the maelstrom. Like, Blue Jays fans are just sad, and that's funny. Not because I dislike the Blue Jays fans, but it's just, I went through it with Carlos Correa, where you think something's one way and you're used to I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway,
the Blue Jays are in kind of a rough spot. Like, it's funny. I was writing this. We were kind of working ahead on some stuff when, it looked like there was some, there was a lot of Blue Jays smoke, as they say, in the business. And so during that Friday, when all the Blue Jays stuff was happening on Twitter, I was like kind of working on this column about just like kind of trying to like put into perspective how, few exceptional teammates Otani has had outside of Trout, like how rarely he's played with another great player. Like, for example, like in his 6 seasons there, an Angels starting pitcher threw 180 innings once, and it was Andrew Heaney who threw 180 on the dot in 2018. Right.
Wow.
So I was looking at the Blue Jays roster and like, okay, like rotation, like much better. Ohtani's never played with a rotation this good. Then you look at the lineup and you're like, what has become of Vlad Guerrero? What do we make of Kevin Biggio as he enters his age 29 season? And it's like, are they going to trade Bo Bichette? And so I was sort of looking, it's like, okay, the Blue Jays are definitely better than the Angels, but like, why is he picking this team? And then the next day he picked the Dodgers.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like, it's all so obvious from here that it was going to be. When do you think he knew that it was the Dodgers? Do you think this was all a charade, or do you think like he was trying to be
Who knows?
Convinced, going on and visiting the Giants, visiting the Blue Jays?
I have a really hard time, and this is just with zero information, obviously, because they're a lockbox. But how could you make such a big decision and have it already pre-planned? I just don't. I think that feels to me like a very difficult concept to kind of accept, especially when you've got somebody who Andy talked about earlier. This is someone who defies convention. He's totally comfortable with it. And in baseball, free agency sort of representation of that. You get to this point where you get to make these decisions. It doesn't strike me as the type that would take that, not seriously, I guess, and not approach it like he's got actual choices to make. Like, that would feel weird to me.
Okay, well, let's cut to the chase then. When the Dodgers are found guilty of tampering, do they void the contract, or are they just fined? Because I think the contract should be voided. All right,
they should contract the franchise, Grant.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, that's the answer.
How pissed is everyone going to be when they find out the name of the dog is just like Steven?
God, I hope so. That would be awesome.
Like, this dog's name better be Dodger.
No, if it's Steven, it's probably after, I don't know.
What would be the most internet crazy name for that dog? What would it? Sandy?
Dog?
Puig.
Wow.
Right? All right. This has been episode number 78 of the Roundtable. It was an emergency. We all slid down fire poles, got to our podcasting desks, and we hope you enjoyed it. We will be back next week if there's news. I think we're kind of we're running an option here where if
we don't know,
we're not going to come back and talk more Otani. So if we talk Yamamoto or Snell or.
It's up to all of our fans in baseball front offices. If you want a pod, do something this week.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point.
Whatever.
That's a good point.
I don't care.
If you have
I get paid
ideas,
the same either way.
If you have ideas about the pods that don't involve breaking news, we'd love to have those. You can send them to McCullough@theathletic.com. But this has been episode 77.
Grant, you're such a dumbass. That's not my email.
Well, it is now. All right. See you then.